So I'm bored again. And when you're bored, the only logical thing to do to pass the time is to build a PC. That's exactly what we're doing today. But to make it exciting, I'll be building inside the brand new Lian O11D Mini V2, which is set to launch very soon. The original O11D Mini came out 5 years ago back in 2020, so it's about time Lian has showed some love to the popular little stepsister of the best-selling case of all time. So grab your snacks and drinks, sit back and relax, and let's get started. Working with AI can be a blessing and a curse. I mean, it helps you throughout mundane tasks, but there are so many models now that you don't know which one to use anymore. Why can't we just have them all in one place? Well, now you can, thanks to Chat LLM Teams from Abacus AI. It's your all-in-one command center, giving you access to all the popular models from OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, and many more in a single window. You just need to type your prompt once, and the built-in Route LLM will automatically grab the model that answers best. So that way you don't have to play pinball on your browser. And it's not just text-based models. The same goes for AI image and video generation. And all of that for only $10 a month. That's way cheaper than even a single subscription on any of those platforms. All the features you'd wish for, like talking to your PDF documents, coding, research, are all packed into this one single hub. All that horsepower for only $10 a month is an absolute steal. So click my link in the description section or my pinned comment to check it out. So the components aren't going to be the main focus of this build, but for those of you that must know, we're building a 2K/Entrée 4K system that costs around 2K or less, maybe a little bit more actually. I don't know the exact price, but I'll post it somewhere on the list. These are just parts I had laying around in inventory, just so I have an excuse to build a PC inside the new Lian O11 V2 case. But I will be going over the components real quick, starting off with the CPU. We are going with the Ryzen 7 9700X processor. 8-core, 16-thread CPU, perfect for gaming, multitasking, editing, streaming, all that stuff. Now the motherboard we're pairing the CPU with is the MSI Mag B650 Tomahawk Wi-Fi, which is the perfect board for this budget. We're not overpaying for extra features that we're not even going to use. I feel like anything over $200 and you're not getting any more value out of the board. You're starting to hit diminishing returns, and the Tomahawk Wi-Fi is in the perfect sweet spot. Even though it's a B650 board, it's already flashed to support the new 9000 series CPU, so we don't have to flash the BIOS, but also has tons of features. 4 DIMM slots, ton of M.2 slots, and lots of connectivity in the back with built-in Wi-Fi. Plus, it's a good-looking board. It's gonna blend in nicely with our all-black system. You don't need to spend over $200 for a motherboard. You just don't. Moving on to memory, I did have an extra pair of the Lexar Aries DDR5 in the inventory, so I might as well throw them in here. This is a 48GB kit running at 8,000 megatransfers, which is absolutely overkill for this system, and we won't even be able to reach the 8,000 megatransfers anyways with the XMP. But like I said, I had some extra sticks laying around, so why not go with it? Ideally, for this build, a 32GB kit at 6,400 megatransfers or even 6,000 megatransfers CL30 would be more than plenty. Bam! And for storage, same story as the memory. I did have an extra M.2 SSD in the inventory, so we're gonna toss in a 4TB drive from Lexar, the NQ780, with up to 7,000 megabytes per second read. This is running on Gen 4. And 4TB is plenty for our operating system, all of our games, and my waifu collection. Of course, you guys already know I'm gonna use my trusty electric screwdriver bit to install the SSD. This is currently our top seller on our store. If you guys don't have an electric screwdriver kit, I highly recommend checking this one out. You won't regret it. Bam! We are all ready to go. Before we toss this inside the case, we gotta prep the board with the cooler. Okay, now for the cooler, here's where things get interesting. We're gonna be tossing in a 360 all-in-one cooler from Sudoku, which is a brand that I have used before in the past. If you guys remember the LandCool 216 case, I've actually used their air cooler before. Well, this is their flagship 360 AIO, the Proteus. And at first glance, you might be wondering, okay, what's the big deal, Ed? it looks like any other AIO with a screen. Well, not quite, but first, let's unbox this and check it out. Okay, so here is the Proteus in the flesh, and I do have to say, first impressions, it looks a little different compared to the traditional rectangular AIOs with a screen that I normally see. For starters, it has these really cool side covers on both sides. Not only does this cover the cables for a more cleaner and minimal look, but we also got some RGB accents on here, which is gonna light up once we plug the cable into the motherboard. Unfortunately, the fans themselves don't have any RGB as they're focusing mostly on performance, but you know, we do have enough RGB accents from the sides here and also from the screen to make up for it. After all, I'm not going too heavy on the RGB anyways. It's gonna be mostly black with some RGB accents, so I think this is gonna fit perfectly in. And this little guy is our removable 3.4-inch LCD screen with a 480 by 480 resolution that we can customize using our Mastercraft software, which I'll show you guys later in the video. But I'm gonna show you one cool thing about this pump cover. Not only is it magnetic, but check this out. You can attach it any way you like, up to 360 degrees. And it's got no cables. This is the first ever AIO that I've seen that doesn't have an actual cable attached to it compared to the other coolers with LCD screens. That's pretty cool. Okay, time to bring over the case. So what we have here is the brand new Lian O11D Mini version 2, a new and improved version of their last gen case. Oh, the panels are toolless. Very nice. I'm guessing the top panel is also toolless. Yep. Beautiful. Might as well take out the rear as well. But the more important question is, do I need to remove any screws in order to remove the front panel, like on their other cases? Oh, no, you don't. It just pops right off. Nice. So this is 2 liters larger than its predecessor, and it now supports both standard ATX and back connect motherboards. But the most notable design change is the slanted bottom plate, which is done for optimized GPU cooling. We can actually fit up to triple 120mm intake fans on the bottom here. Now, Lian does offer this case in a beautiful white color as well, but I've been doing a lot of white builds recently on the channel, so I'm kind of taking a temporary break from them. But the case also comes with 2 versions. The airflow version comes with 5 pre-installed 120mm reverse blade fans, and the non-airflow version, which is the case here, comes with no fans because I decided to go with my own. Okay, we're just about ready to install our motherboard inside the case, and I want to show you guys one cool thing you could do if you're installing a micro ATX motherboard. You have the option of moving down the motherboard by 1 inch, giving you more clearance for the top radiator and fan installation. So if you look closely here, you can actually reposition the standoffs to the bottom. So basically lowering it down by like 1 inch. And you can do the same thing with the bottom standoffs as well. And when you flip the case to the back, you can just reposition the cover to the top. That way, that's where there's no awkward gap on the top there. It's also important to note that if you guys do shift your motherboard down, you're gonna have to adjust the grommet over here as well. So once you remove these 2 screws, you have to adjust it down and then re-screw it in so that way the standoffs align with the motherboard holes. Now, since I'm installing a full ATX motherboard, I'm gonna keep it at the default setting. All right, so anyways, before installing the motherboard, I wanna hook up this really cool RGB frame first. That way we can add a nice underglow to our motherboard. We're not gonna be going too heavy on the RGB, so this will give us just enough subtle accent to where the build is gonna pop, especially in the dark. So this sits right here on top of the motherboard tray, and then the motherboard goes right on top of that. Okay, now it's time to install our AIO on the top. Luckily, the bracket is removable, so it's gonna make the installation process a lot easier. Although the bracket is sitting fairly close to the side panel, and I fear we might have some clearance issues only because of this RGB accent panel over here. It sticks out a little bit more compared to the radiator, so I suspect we might have an issue closing the side panel, but there is only one way to find out. Let's go ahead and install it and see what we're dealing with. Yep, just as I feared, it is sticking out too much. Oh, it's only off by like a few millimeters. If I really push it in, I think I can lock it in. But yeah, it does lock in place if I really give it some force, but I don't know if I really want to do that though. I don't know if you guys can tell, but there's pretty much no space. It is pushing on the glass quite a bit, which I'm not too comfortable with, to be honest. Over long periods of time, we might even shatter the glass because there's gonna be a lot of heat buildup inside. So I don't wanna take the chance just for some aesthetics, because this entire piece here only serves one purpose. It's literally just a cover with some RGB lights on there. That's all it is. Luckily, Sudoku has thought about this and has given us the option of just simply removing it. Unfortunately, the side of the fans are exposed, which isn't the end of the world, but at least now I can comfortably install the side panel. As you guys can see, that snapped right in place. There you go. And on that note, let's install our power supply next. We're gonna be going with the ROG Loki 850 watt Platinum SFX power supply. I do wanna emphasize that an SFX power supply is not required for the build, as a full-size power supply can easily fit in the case without any issues. However, an SFX power supply will leave extra space in the back for cable management, which is why I'm going with that route. Plus, 850 watts is more than plenty for this entire system. Okay, so as I was about to hook up the USB 3 header cable, I noticed that we have a little bit of an issue here. The included GPU sag bracket is unfortunately in the way of plugging in the USB 3 cable. This is only an issue because the USB 3 header is angled towards the side instead of outwards. So if I want to plug this in, unfortunately the bracket is in the way. Now there are two options that I can do. Number one, I can completely remove the GPU sag brackets and kind of just push it more towards the left here, which as you can see gave me plenty of space to plug in the cable. And the second option is to just go with a right angle adapter if you must have the GPU sag bracket sitting really close to the side of the motherboard, but fortunately for me, I can get away with having it sitting over here. All right, so now that we have our power supply installed in the back and we did plug both of our EPS connectors on the top, we are now ready to finish the AIO installation. I almost forgot about this little guy that's attached to the side of the radiator magnetically. You know how a lot of AIOs have a bunch of cables coming out of the pump and it just looks very messy? Well, this is supposed to solve that problem and give this AIO a cleaner wireless look. So essentially what happens is you have one cable coming out of the pump and this plugs in to the edge of the controller right over here. And then the rest of the cables, all of this plugs into the controller itself. And because the controller is tucked away behind the radiator, you're not gonna see any of the cables. You can simply route all the cables through the back of the case and keep them hidden from sight. You got your fan control cable, RGB, USB header cable for data transfer, and SATA for power. And on top of that, the controller comes with an extra 4-pin fan header as well as a 5-volt RGB header. So you can just plug in everything into this control hub and then have the other end plug into the motherboard. All right, AIO is officially installed, but we do have one little loose cable that we have to deal with. And that's where this extra tube clip comes in handy. So the cable basically sits right here in the middle, and then these two are for the tubes. And there you have it. That is how you manage that one loose cable. All right, boys and girls, the build is nearly done, and so far I am loving how it is churning out. The old black stealthy look is definitely growing on me, but once I add some RGB accents in there, it is gonna be magnifico. Now we do have some empty spots left in the case, like on the bottom, the side bracket, and the rear, so I feel like we can add in some additional fans for better cooling. Luckily, Sudoku did send me some extra fans to use. We have the Mach 120s, 120mm high performance fans. We're gonna be tossing in triple 120 intake fans in the bottom, 2 more intake fans on the side, and then 1 exhaust in the back just to balance out the air pressure because we do have 3 exhausts on the top. We do have our fan dust filter on the bottom, which is easy to remove. All we gotta do is slide it out, clean it, and then slide it back in. And also, just like the top bracket, we can also remove the bottom just to make the installation process a lot easier. So let's go ahead and pop this out. It's unfortunate that Sudoku does not make any reverse blade fans at the moment, so we're gonna have to flip these upside down, exposing the ugly cables. Now I do plan on installing the GPU vertically, but in order to do that, we first have to replace the default bracket with the vertical bracket, and then we can install the fans in the bottom. Okay, we do have space to add 2 more 120mm fans over here on the side. So I'm gonna stack them up like this. And last but not least, the final exhaust fan in the back here. I also just realized we don't need the built-in sag bracket because we are going vertical. So let's just get this out of here. And instead, I'm going to install the vertical GPU sag bracket, which looks like this. It's actually pretty interesting how this even works. This basically sits right over here between these 2 fans, and you could even adjust the height by rotating this knob over here. So depending on how low the GPU sits, you can control the tension of the bracket. But we'll leave this alone for now until we install the GPU. Okay, this is actually Big Brain by Lian Li. Check this out. This is the first time I'm seeing this in a case. We have an adjustable bracket dedicated for the 24-pin cable. And this is awesome because oftentimes, when you guys are installing your 24-pin cable and it starts to slant towards the back. So you get this very awkward, uneven look. Well, with this bracket, you can actually adjust it to a point where it looks nice and clean from the front. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't really do anything for like the stock power supply cables. This is mostly designed for like the premium custom cables or even the 24-pin trimmers. And I'll show you guys an example of this. So we put it through here, and then I can raise the bracket from the back to make sure that the cable is even from the front. And there you have it. Even though it's such a small little addition to the case, it makes a world of a difference on the aesthetics. And this is why I love Lian Li so much. They're constantly trying to improve their cases every single time instead of recycling the same thing over and over again. But as I said earlier in the video, we're not gonna be adding too much RGB inside the build. So we're gonna be replacing the strimmers with something different. Feast your eyes on this, the brand new Hydrus V2 24-pin cable extension. Look how clean this is compared to a traditional 24-pin cable. You got one thin cable instead, so you got this minimalistic design to it, and we even got some RGB accents on here, which we can control with the motherboard software. All we have to do is connect one end of the RGB cable to the female socket. As you can see here, the 3-pin socket is visible, so we just slide this in. And the other end plugs directly into the 5-volt 3-pin RGB header in your motherboard, and you can also daisy chain other RGB devices that you have. Oh my god, that is so clean. Look at that. This cable is actually perfect for SFF builds, if you really need to get into those super tight and hard to reach areas. And then you grab the other end and simply plug in our 24-pin cable. Now, in terms of storage support, you guys can add up to 4 drives. On this cable cover over here on the opposite side, you can add up to 2 2.5-inch SSDs. But we also have 2 hard drive cages on the bottom right here that can hold either 1 hard drive each or another 2.5-inch SSD. But the cool thing about these drive cages is that they also double as cable management storage. And I'll show you guys what I mean by that. So I'm going to release the thumb screws in the back, pop this out from the back, and you can open this up to install your drive, as you can see, but you can also close it and tuck your cables inside here, which is what I plan on doing. So even if you're not gonna be installing any drives on here, you can use it to store excess cables. So there is a bit of functionality as well. Of course, you can also choose to completely remove it if you want. But for the sake of the video, I'm just gonna keep it in here and show you how you can actually tuck away the cables. We will start with the larger 24-pin cable. So I'm gonna tuck this actually in the one in the back. This is really hard to see in a black case. Unfortunately, it's one of the reasons why I don't like building in black cases, because it just doesn't show up that well on camera. But as you can see here, I tucked in majority of the cables inside here, and then I'm going to tighten it from the back, just so it's nice and snug. That way the cable doesn't come loose. And now I'm gonna do the same thing for the second drive. Just gonna wrap all this excess cable. And there you have it. And of course, you do have some extra Velcro straps over here that we can use to tidy up the remainder of the loose cables. That's one. And yeah, there we have it. Look how much more space we have in this compact case. And then we can finally attach our cable cover. Bam! Look at that. All right, last but not least, let's go ahead and toss in our GPU. Now, originally, my first choice was the Palette Jetstream RTX 4080 Super, but towards the end of the build, I noticed we have an unusual amount of gray accents from the fans, and I feel like the black GPU wouldn't really do the rest of the build justice. So then I thought, what other GPU has some gray accents in it that would fit perfectly in the PC? And then it hit me, the tough gaming card from Asus, specifically the RTX 5070 Ti, which I've used in a previous build. This card is actually gonna fit perfectly in this system. And just like the 24-pin cable we hooked up to the motherboard, we have another Hydrus cable specifically for the GPU. Check this out. Super clean, same exact minimal design as the 24-pin. It's even got a right angle connector, so we're not putting any stress on the cable. But the main difference is that this is not an extension cable. The other end is a male 16-pin connector, and this plugs directly into your power supply that has a female 16-pin connector. So if your power supply doesn't have one of those sockets, then unfortunately you cannot use this cable. Bam! What a build this came out to be, ladies and gents. I am absolutely obsessed with the black and gray accents. The tough gaming card was without a doubt the better choice, as it complements the gray accents from the fans. And the subtle RGB lighting from the memory, the cables, and the motherboard underglow make the internals pop just enough to where the PC doesn't look like something out of a dark void sitting on your desk. Unfortunately, there were a few minor hiccups I ran into while installing the GPU that I want to talk about, especially if you're planning on on building inside of this case. Be mindful of the size of your GPU and your AIO. The Tough Gaming RTX 5070 Ti is only a 2.5 slot card, and yet I wasn't able to install it because the AIO tubes would get in the way. Unfortunately, there just wasn't enough clearance to where I can comfortably install the GPU. As you can see, the tubes were bending quite a bit, and when I tried to install the screen, it just wouldn't fit. So I had to remove the pump, swap out the brackets, and rotate the pump 90 degrees so that the tubes are coming out from the right side, and only then I was able to slot in the card. But even then, it was a very close fit. As you can see, this side of the GPU is practically touching the bottom part of the screen. So if you're planning on going with the vertical GPU orientation inside this case, make sure you're going with a low profile cooler, or at the very least, if you're going with an AIO, make sure the tubes come out from the right side, just so you don't run into any issues. Also, my dummy brain installed the vertical GPU support on the wrong side. It's actually supposed to go in between the second and third fan, that way it doesn't block the riser cable. Speaking of cables, the Hydrus cables were absolute fire. It really did clean up the look of the build, and the RGB accents made them pop. The only downside is that they are pricey. You can get an entire cable extension kit for the price of the 24-pin Hydrus cable alone. So it's definitely not for the budget-focused builds. However, with that said, if you definitely want to spice up your setup and give it a clean, minimal, maybe even a sci-fi look, then these cables are definitely worth the purchase. But again, just as a reminder, for the 16-pin GPU cable, your PSU has to have a female 16-pin socket to plug in. Otherwise, you can't use it because these are not regular extension cables. Now, I do want to talk about cooling performance a little bit because these fans quite literally blew me away. Running IDA64 to stress test the CPU for about 20 minutes, we reached peak temps of only 69 degrees Celsius. And during the superposition 4K benchmark, the GPU also peaked at 67 degrees. And this is what the PC sounds like during load. I don't know what Sudoku is feeding these fans, but they're starting to make even Noctua sweat a little bit. But aside from the amazing cooling performance, the LCD screen is also pretty sick. Using their own Mastercraft software, I can customize it any way I want using this block system that they developed. So check this out, this is pretty cool. Over here on the main screen, I can select any block size I want, ranging from a single 1x1 all the way to the biggest size 3x3, which pretty much covers up the entire screen. So for example, if I want to see my current GPU temp, I can just drag over the GPU temp sensor and it will update in real time. There you go. But unfortunately, this is too small for me. I want to be able to see my hardware information, especially since the PC is going to be further away from me. So I think a 2x2 size will be more than enough. So I'm going to go over to the 2x2 size, locate the GPU temp, here it is, and I'm going to drag it over to the screen, and there you have it, it updated in real time. Now I do want to see my CPU temp as well. I think that's another very important hardware information to keep track of. But we don't have space to add another 2x2, as you guys can see here, unfortunately. So I'm going to go over to 1x2 instead. Then I'm going to locate CPU temp, which is right here, and I'm going to put it right next to the GPU temp. Now I still have 3 more slots on the bottom here. I can either put in 3 small blocks, a 2x1 and a 1x1 combo, or a single 3x1. But you know what? I want to change things up a bit and add a chart sensor for the last one. So let's go and scroll down to the chart section and see what we have. So we can either put the CPU, GPU load, the frequency, or my current internet speeds. I think CPU load is more important, so I'm going to go ahead and drag that over instead. The one downside is that you don't have any themes to choose from. Like, this is the only design style that's available at the moment, but I'm sure it's very easy to add more later in a software update. Now, if I want to get a little crazy, I can mix in media with the sensor panels. So if I go into the media block, I can upload images, GIFs, or MP4s in whatever size I want. Personally, I wouldn't bother uploading the smaller ones because they are barely visible. If you must upload images or GIFs, I do recommend going with either the 2x2 or the 3x3 full screen instead. I do wish I can upload more than 3 GIFs into the library. It kind of sucks that it maxes out at only 3 GIFs and only 1 video, but maybe they will have a future software update that will remove the limitations. All in all, this was such a fun case to build in, a ton of quality of life improvements over last gen. I, for one, love the brushed aluminum top panel, which adds a more premium look and feel to the case, and bonus points for giving us the option of relocating the front I/O to the top if we need to. Now, for those of you who stuck around till the end, I have a very special giveaway just for my subscribers. I so happen to have a premium keyboard sent by Radiator to give away. This is a brand new MGA68 keyboard that's made entirely out of aluminum. There is a good amount of heft to it, which gives it a nice high quality premium custom keyboard look and feel. The board features pre-lubed Kale Brown magnetic switches, which are generally more durable than mechanical switches, and they have faster response, so it's perfect for competitive gaming. You also get PPT keycaps with south-facing RGB lighting, which is nice, and the board comes with a switch plate, pour-on foam, and gasket, which helps provide a smooth typing experience. If you guys want that premium custom keyboard experience without having to build one yourself, then I'll leave a link below if you want to check this out. For everyone else that wants to enter for a chance to win this exact keyboard, just leave a comment down below about anything you enjoyed from today's video. And make sure to leave either your Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok handle so I can DM you directly. Everything I use for the build will be posted down below in the description section. Subscribe for more PC builds coming your way, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next one.